It's Animankia again. Today we're filming somewhere a little bit differently. We're not at the usual nut house. We're at a history museum, but you gotta make do with what you got. So forgive us if the lighting's a little bit different than usual, or if the sound's a bit echoey. It's a big place, so you never know how it's gonna come through.
And we don't have our glorious poster. We just have this nice, beautiful, scattered brick wall.
And
you just broke it.
And the dust comes right off.
You can't get more authentic than that.
Right off onto my cell phone. You can't make this shit up, people.
No, you cannot.
But yeah, so this definitely isn't as trashy as it looks. It's nice.
It's a very nice place.
It's a nice place. We want to say that because we're using it for free and we got to give it good publicity. But I don't even know the full name of this place. Oh God.
I don't either.
The History Museum.
Yeah. The History Museum in Rising Sun.
Yeah, that place.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I didn't bring any figures this time because once again we kind of this was a rush job, but Mr. Andrew is a more prepared individual than I am apparently, and he did bring a few figures.
Mine were actually just grab as I was walking out the door type things. So that's why they're not the greatest things, but they're still something.
We always got to show off some figures, so
yeah.
We'll show off your creation last, since those are always the coolest, and you can start with your nice dinosaurs. You got your dinosaurs.
They were from these. Yeah, obviously it's Rexy from Jurassic World, which Mark over here did not know for the longest time until I just told him that this.
It's brown and it has scars, and it's bigger, but it's a figure, so you can't tell that it's bigger. So forgive me.
Yeah, but again, you've seen the movie, so you should know. So you have no excuse.
I should know. I'm sorry, any huge Jurassic Park fans.
And good old Indominus.
Is that coming? Oh yeah. Oh my God, that's right. We have a different camera.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. I was wondering why you were holding it there.
Oh yeah. These were. Oh yeah, show Indominus by itself.
It's quite white.
Yes, she is. But yeah, they cost me a good little bit, but it was because it was a combo pack thing for buying a Jurassic World movie set that came with a 10 for the case, the DVD, the Blu-ray, the 4K, as well as Rexy and Indominus.
True fans only.
Yes, and granted, yes, it was about $100 for it, but well worth because I'm a huge fan and I needed to have my fucking Rexy.
Hell yeah.
And Indominus was just a bonus.
And this is a creation.
Like we mentioned a few weeks ago about how I made some of the tailed beasts from Naruto, I brought one of them that I felt like took the most work to do, and it's Shikaku, the one tail. The one tail in particular, yes,
is the most difficult part.
Because I had to make the tail out of the base of the tail is made out of clay, just like the rest of the body. But then I ripped off every single needle off of a pine cone and separately glued them on, which took me about 3 weeks to do. And then having to go through 4 or 5 different pictures for different angles for shots to get the pattern for his tail.
It looks great.
Yes, as well as for the rest of his body. And I know for any of the hardcore fans out there, I know the mouth doesn't exactly quite line up, but it's hard to do that when you're trying to sculpt it just cutting it with a knife, so sue me.
The lower part of the jaw does actually go over the upper part though, right?
It does, but as you can kind of see though, it just doesn't quite line up with the rest of his face.
Yeah, I see the nose is a little off, but...
But that could just be because of the way I put the nose on, but either way.
That looks good as hell to me anyway.
But, so, yeah, I've got him and a few of the others, but this is the only one that I just brought because he was the most difficult one to do. Yeah. And those are the figures that we brought.
Yeah. And he's got some more of those tailed beasts to make down the line, so maybe he'll bring more at some point.
Possibly.
10 tails is going to be fun.
He's last. He's definitely last.
He's going to be big.
He's going to be big.
Yeah.
I'll have to go buy several things of clay.
Yeah. I think you can do it, Andrew.
Oh, I probably can. Just needs time.
Yeah. Yeah, all the time. Mm-hmm. So with this podcast, we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite kind of characters.
Villains.
Anime, manga, and kaiju villains, actually. So, yeah, to get started, do you want to start with some kind of kaiju villains, or do you want to start with the anime villains? What do you think?
Well, I guess we can do a couple of the kaiju ones to get them out of the way kind of quick. First of all, yes, like we mentioned before, Indominus was the villain of Jurassic World, the genetically modified dinosaur, which, for anybody that has seen Jurassic World, there's very, very little explanation needed for her because she is just psychotic.
She's just a damn experiment.
She is, and she's able to camouflage, she's able to control her body temperature, all kinds of stuff that no living creature should be able to do. So
she's also kind of the first legitimate, like, I don't know, villain in Jurassic Park if you look at it from the perspective of she's a pure, like, you know, purely evil, so to say.
Yeah.
I mean, Rexy's an animal, but she's actually designed to kill things.
Well, she technically wasn't designed to kill things. She just happened to be like that because she had
Messed up DNA.
Messed up DNA, but she was also a raptor, so they're kind of social, and they kept her in isolation.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that a thing that we'll get into in a later podcast about her supposedly killing and eating her sibling. Because the way that they did in there, when she did meet the other raptors, she was very social and very trying to get them to join her pack. So why would she want to kill the only thing that was possibly the same as her?
She almost succeeded at the end of the movie, too. This close.
Yeah, she would.
Chris Pratt is just so charming that he overrode her maternal or whatever instincts that she had.
Actually, no, it's just because of the raptors, and then Rexy showed up and just completely kicked her ass.
It was a cool fight.
It was. And then we'll go into an actual kaiju one now, which is probably nobody's surprise, but Godzilla. There's a few movies where he actually has been pure evil. One in particular is Godzilla 1985, which he is one of the most evil versions he's ever been. Like, he does not care about anything, and he actually goes out of his way to kill people.
Dang.
Yeah, he's not happy.
The original Godzilla was just kind of a force of nature, right? Didn't have any will so much.
Well, he had a will. It just, pretty much, yeah, he was just a force of nature and just an animal. But he was represented as being, in the movie, he was just represented as pure evil because they needed him to be something like that, and then the force of nature, obviously.
Because he's thematically bombs, basically.
Oh, yeah, basically.
Because, you know, World War II, you can explain that if you want, but if people don't know.
But yeah, like World War II genetically modified him in a way. He was originally just a dinosaur, but he ended up getting, the bomb hit him and mutated him.
Yeah.
And turned him from just a legend into an actual threat.
Yeah, which was what the film creators were going for, because it was a kind of like an anti-war kind of film. You know, this is the terrors of war turned into a giant monster because that's more fun to watch.
Yeah, to show that it's like what would happen if mankind continued nuclear warfare.
Yeah. So
not so much a giant monster would appear, but it would just completely ravage the entire world if left unchecked with the population.
It would get out of hand.
It would get very out of hand, and they decided to use it as a monster, and Godzilla just grew from it.
Yeah. So
everybody loved it.
What was supposed to be like an anti-war propaganda film turned into just like a giant success from a marketing perspective. So, you know, run with it.
Yeah, run with it. And he's been continuing to this day. The guy's almost 65 years old. He's going pretty well.
Yeah. So is the 86 one you said? Or 5? The only completely evil one? Or which one was that? Or not 80?
No, yeah, 85.
Oh, 85. Okay, I was right.
Yeah, he was 85. No, that's not the only pure evil one. That was just other than the original 54 and 55 one. That was those were the first two original evil ones. Then 1985, and then there was 2000. Yeah, 2000. Not so much pure evil, just back to kind of like the force of nature, kind of just being like, okay, I've seen what humanity is doing. I need to stop you. Mm-hmm. Not so much destroying humanity itself, just destroying humanity's resources in a way, like power plants, all that kind of stuff. Just trying to take the world back to where it was simple, like trying to just preserve the world.
Cool.
But he still was kind of affected as a villain.
I mean, most of the time, Godzilla creates collateral damage for all of humanity. So regardless of his intentions, humans don't like him.
Right. And then 2001 was another pure evil, and that one was, I think I mentioned this before, was the amalgamation of all of the souls from like World War II, just
bringing it back.
Pretty much, yeah. They just combined in a way and formed Godzilla, which that one was more evil than any other version because that one actually really enjoyed killing. There was actually a few scenes where after he like blew up a building, it almost seemed like that he smiled after doing it.
Which makes sense considering how he was formed.
Pretty much.
More of that anti-war sentiment. Like.
Yeah. And all the other monsters that they had in there trying to stop him. Mm-hmm. Which they had Baragon, which unfortunately for him is a cool monster, but couldn't really do shit against him. Mothra, which nobody's surprised that she was in there. She she actually held her own a little bit in there, but she still got her ass kicked. And the only film in history where Ghidorah has been a good guy.
So Mothra is almost always a good guy, right?
Mothra always is. There is never been a case where Mothra is evil.
So Mothra is technically like the big good of the Godzilla-verse.
Yes, she is. Huh. And she's the monster that Godzilla has actually teamed up with more than any other monster. Whether fighting for good, evil, or, well, just fighting against, that kind of stuff. Mothra is always on humanity's side. It doesn't matter what is going on. She will always fight for the world.
That's impressive considering how shittily people treat moths.
Yeah, and they always, everybody always says, like, what is the worst Godzilla monster? They always say Mothra. It's like, no.
Just no. You don't understand Mothra's feelings.
Well, she does actually have pretty good feelings for a monster, but also considering they think that she's just weak because she's just a moth. She is actually very, very powerful. Like, she actually is powerful enough to lift and carry Godzilla out of a city.
He's a big boy.
He's big, and considering that all she has is those little moth legs, granted, yeah, all of her power comes from her wings, but she can still lift and carry him out of a city, pick him up and throw him into buildings, drop buildings on top of him. She is powerful for an insect. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple others where he's not so much villainous, like just anti-hero-ish, like 2004. Mm-hmm. That was the last Toho released one until Shin Godzilla. Mm-hmm. But he was kind of, again, the whole thing of trying to like just destroy the world in a way, not so much pure evil, just because they actually explain like humanity started a huge fire trying to burn everything in existence, and he got completely outraged and as he should, and vowed a vendetta against humanity.
So pretty much in every movie where Godzilla is a good guy, then the humans are basically the bad guys, right? Or is it just other monsters?
Other monsters. When Godzilla's a good guy, the humans actually are on his side. They will help him in a fight.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so
they're not completely terrible.
No, but Godzilla was only ever good for about what was it, like 65 or something through 73. So not a very good reign of Godzilla being a hero. Yeah, okay. They kind of like the whole monster, him being just evil aspect.
So I guess outside of Godzilla, is there any other big like kaiju villains or anything you can think of? Or is that just like the only one that matters because it's Godzilla?
He's pretty much the only one that matters.
You heard it here, folks, from the kaiju man himself.
There are others, but he's the only one that actually is represented so well that people actually remember.
That's true. Yeah. he's the big kahuna.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, now we'll go back to anime and manga type things.
Yeah, so we'll go into like some intricacies with villains in anime and manga, try to get down to the bottom of them, and also talk about some of our personal favorites and least favorite villains. I'm sure you got some of your own and whatnot. Yeah. So I guess we'll talk a little about kind of what makes anime and manga villains a little bit different than maybe some Western comic book villains. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of things. I mean, a villain's a villain most of the time. Like the motivations can only be so differing. But I think one thing that differentiates some anime and manga villains just comes from how anime and manga is structured in comparison to American comics. Because, for example, in like DC and Marvel, you got like a pool of villains, you know? You got, like in Spider-Man, you just got like
Croc, Rhino. Yeah. Or not Croc, but Lizard, Rhino, Vulture.
And I guess you could say that, Kingpin would be, I don't know, like kind of like the leader of, what is it, the Sinister Six? Or Kingpin's not their leader. He's kind of in Daredevil, right?
Yeah, Kingpin's a Daredevil.
What am I talking about?
Sinister Six.
I said, I'm sorry about that. Not Kingpin. That's not Spider-Man, right? No, it is Spider-Man.
No, that's Daredevil.
Jesus.
You just said it. Yeah, it's still
okay.
He's still Marvel, but he's not Spider-Man. So
okay, I could have sworn I've seen Spider-Man in him.
Oh, he was.
Oh, thank God.
Oh well, okay then. You're not gonna get jumped.
Saved.
The Amazing Spider-Man, yeah, he was a villain. He had like that white trench coat. And
Yeah.
the bald head.
Yeah. Okay.
But
He basically is always trying to take over New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just one suburb though.
Yeah, just one suburb of New York.
Mm-hmm. But like with how like the difference I would say with a lot of like comic book villains and how comic book villains are structured is that, like, for example, when Spider-Man gets his powers, he's at his max strength, right? like Spider-Man might train a little bit and get a little bit stronger, but he's just fighting the same villains in different scenarios, teamed up in different ways.
Yeah.
Throughout all of Spider-Man, from what I understand. Once again, we're not the biggest comic book readers, but we watch all the movies and whatnot.
He does get some power-ups, like
From suits, maybe. Yeah.
From suits, like the Iron Spider suit, which I know a lot of people don't like, so don't jump me on that. But the biggest one would be the symbiote suit. That really enhances his abilities.
But it had a huge cost, and it was temporary.
Yeah, and then Venom. So then, Venom's kind of the dark Spider-Man, so I guess kind of in a way it kind of counts.
Yeah. Whereas the difference here, I'm sure a lot of people know where I'm going with this, is that in anime and manga, often the main character or characters start off pretty weak.
Yeah.
And they train throughout the series, and as the story progresses, the villains kind of progress as well and get stronger and stronger, and
so that seems like it is like nowadays. In the past, it was like the guy has no power. He learns, he gets stronger, while the villain has been full strength the whole time and met several times, like, just beats him up and is like, oh, well, you're too weak to even try to challenge me.
Yeah, in certain series.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, for, like, some longer running ones, like Naruto and, like, My Hero Academia and...
Yeah, well, that one's
It's not really Seven Deadly Sins, but...
Well, in a way, yeah, because they weren't at full power when they were fighting.
Yeah. But, so there's, like, a progression that goes into it, and you get... It kind of makes villains come out of the woodwork in a different way, because like I said, in like Western comics, they're all kind of out there already, wrecking the city in their own ways.
Yeah.
Attending to their own evil deeds, and you just have to go, you hear about him, and he goes to go fight them and stop it, do his heroic duty.
Yeah.
But it's more of a progression scale.
Yeah.
For the most part, Dragon Ball did it a lot.
I'll take your word on that one. I'm not a Dragon Ball fan.
Let's just say Dragon Ball started off with martial arts tournaments and ended off with planets blowing up. So,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Why go small?
Yeah, exactly.
Why go small? Just go big scale. Just blow up everything.
Mm-hmm. And because of this structure too, that kind of like gave birth to the final villain.
Yeah.
Anime and manga always have the final villain. The culmination of all of the other villains, and well, not really culmination, I should say, but someone who's always stronger and better and And when it comes to, I would say, Western comics, for specific stories, there'll always be like a final guy they fight, but it's not really,
like a build-up type thing.
A build-up towards that. And hopefully it's built up in the anime and manga, because if you have a final villain that comes out of nowhere and shits all over what people like, Kaguya!
Yeah, I couldn't wait to throw that one in there, could you?
Oh, man. Never build up a character for hundreds upon hundreds of episodes and chapters, only to have said character get taken over at the last moment by a god you introduced 20 chapters ago, pissing off everyone in the fan base in the process. Don't do that. That's Writing 101 by Mark. and trust me, I know these things. I guess that's the biggest difference, I would say. As far as some other tropes or cliches, I know we already do tropes and cliches, but we didn't do it for villains.
No, we did not.
In anime and manga it seems like, as opposed to Western series, the thinner you are as a villain, the sleeker you are, the stronger you are. You get like the big villains that are always the weak guys that get beaten in one shot.
Yeah.
You got the giant thugs who are ripped, and then you have this little person walk up and just flick them and they die.
Yeah.
But you got these little tiny 5-foot people, and they're unstoppable world destroyers, as opposed to in Western comics, the more macho, the more power, which makes more sense.
Yeah. But they'll usually make it where the guy will be like skinny by comparison, but they'll still be fairly fit.
Oh yeah, they're always they always got a 6-pack, but they're not
6-pack and like decent sized arms, like what you'd think for like a normal average kind of well in shape kind of guy.
That's more with modern anime too. With older anime, it was about the muscles a lot of the time.
Yes.
Like Dragon Ball, for example, did that a lot. But even Dragon Ball kind of followed what I'm talking about, because as characters transformed in Dragon Ball, for example, Frieza and Cell. This guy doesn't know anything about Dragon Ball, so this is just me.
I know, but I've at least heard those names, and I have an idea of what they look like, so I have a bit of an idea of who they are.
Yeah, they started really monstrously and huge, and then like their second form, they got less monstery and smaller, and then finally, they were down to their more humanistic kind of selves. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because I think you can just have more dynamic and even and intricate fight scenes if you have two characters that are the same size and shape duking it out,
Yeah, it looks more realistic. Like you have like an average guy
choreography
fighting.
can be funner.
Yeah, like an average guy fighting a guy who's whose like arm muscles are as wide as our damn table.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make very good, like, if they go to punch and it's just like, oh, well, look, they stopped equally punches. Like, but how the hell is that possible? That guy's arm should be snapped like a twig.
Yeah. So it's just you can make really fun fights with bigger guys, but it's just I think that is kind of the mentality behind it, or the fact that Japanese people are generally kind of tiny, so they want to represent themselves.
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't say that.
Not in a bad way. We're not meaning that in a bad way.
Yeah. that didn't come out right.
No, that did not come out right. Please don't kill us, people.
We didn't mean it. We respect you all.
We do.
Wow. But yeah. Okay. So another thing would be, I think, a lot of the times in anime and manga, it goes a bit further into the villain's psychology. Yeah, because I think in I know this is turning into a Western versus. I didn't mean for it to be that way.
We're just doing comparisons. It's
just to give a better insight to what we're saying. But yeah, when it comes to Western villains and whatnot, it's always from the perspective of the hero. The amount of times you get inside mental perspective from maybe Doc Ock is smart, but like Doc Ock or the villains, like I don't think you get many like inner thought processes behind them really. Like I don't think it goes in their heads. It goes into Peter Parker's head.
Yeah.
But like Lex Luthor, you probably won't ever hear his inner thoughts as much.
Yeah, no, probably not.
But with villains in anime and manga, it seems like, they always try their best to get you to understand where they're coming from, even if they're psychos.
Yeah.
And even if they are psychos, it's at least fun to hear their inner thoughts being schizophrenic and
panicky as they're fighting, and then they're still winning, even though they're just like panicking out.
Yeah. So I think that is another tiny little difference there, which I guess kind of leads into like the different types of villains in anime and manga, which is not much different than the types in other media. There's just, you either got the crazy world-ending destruction villains who just want everything to end, and a good example of one of them would be Light Yagami. He doesn't really want the world to end, but from Death Note, he's a villain protagonist. You don't see those very often, but I'm sure if you've seen Death Note, you know where I'm going with this. But he finds a Death Note, finds out if you write anyone's name in it, they'll die within 40 seconds, and decides to go on a rampage and clear the world of everyone he deems evil. So he kind of thinks he has a higher goal, but he loses his mind as he goes along with it, and at that point he just wants to kill everyone who's opposing him, which is most people.
Well, another example of thing, I'm not fully all caught up, but from what I've seen, we also got Kaneki.
That's true, but he's good though.
Well, until he, snaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he starts off as as the hero, fighting his dark side, but then eventually he just gives into it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And what about Lelouch? Do you think Lelouch counts as a villain?
I'd say that he's more of maybe kind of like the anti-ish villain. He's still a villain, but he wasn't being a villain on purpose. He was being it to save the world.
Yeah. So Light Yagami is one of the few villain protagonists. The other ones are just kind of like Kaneki occasionally gives into his evil side because he can't control himself because he's mentally unstable.
Right.
And Lelouch has greater goals for humanity and for his friends and for the country in mind.
Well, we also got Ainz Ulgon from Overlord.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know much about Ainz.
We actually don't really know all much about him either. He's just a guy that was playing in a online game, which you say the thing because I can't fucking say it right.
Isekai?
No, the whole
MMO?
Yeah, that.
It's 3 letters, Andrew.
Shut up. Shut up. MMORPG. There we go. That.
Got it.
But yeah, he was playing that. He gets stuck in the game, and when he was in the game, he was a villain. Him and all in his guild were all villains. Mm-hmm. And he goes to is in this new world, and he ends up being it seems like that he's kind of being like this hero type thing, helping people, but in reality he's working another angle, saying okay, I'll build trust, I'll make allies and everything, and then when the time's right, I will just betray everybody, take over and kill and just do all that. So he's still a villain.
But it was in a game, so it's not really like he's a full-blown villain.
Well, we don't really know, because from the way it is now, he's stuck in the game as his villain form. So
maybe it'll change him now that it's all real.
Maybe. But from what we know, that was his initial goal.
But I mean, other villains along like the complete psycho liner. Once again, Frieza from Dragon Ball. He's notorious from just being an evil asshole to everyone and destroying entire races just for fun.
And then there's what's his name? I still cannot remember his name.
What series?
My Hero Academia.
Shigaraki?
Yeah, Shigaraki.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up Shigaraki later, but...
Oh, well, my bad.
That's okay. I was going to we're going to eventually go into characters or villains we really like and dislike, so he was one of the ones I like.
Oh,
but,
well, yeah, I agree with you, too. I like him, too.
Yeah, but we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
Screw structure. So what makes Shigaraki an interesting villain is...
I think it's just the layout thing, because,
Once again, something I haven't really seen done in other...
Yeah, because,
in anything.
The main character is
American
supposed to be the hero, and Shigaraki is the main villain, but they both start off basically weak. I mean, obviously, Midoriya is weaker than Shigaraki, but they're both learning to level up and get stronger as heroes and villains equally. So it's not like, okay, he's more powerful than him or vice versa.
And I would say it's not so much that Shigaraki starts weak from a physical perspective. He starts weak from a leadership and villain perspective.
Right. Well, I mean, because he's
mental.
Midoriya starts off with nothing, while Shigaraki already has power.
Yeah, he has his quirk, which Shigaraki's quirk or power in My Hero Academia
Was it disintegration?
Is disintegration, kind of like decomposition. If he touches you, you'll just start to dissolve.
Not just
from the
anything
point.
he touches.
Yeah. All 5 of his fingers have to contact the surface.
Yeah, so he just actually has to touch all 5 fingers.
Yeah, so if he doesn't want to murder you, he has to leave one finger off. But what's interesting, like he was saying, is he grows along with Deku, but and Deku's the main character.
That's his nickname. His actual name is Midoriya.
Yeah, Izuku Midoriya.
Yeah, but everybody just calls him Deku.
But yeah, he starts off as a man child. He's got this mentality of treating everything as a game. Like they raid the USJ, which is a training course for heroes, and he brings in a giant group of thugs and one super strong creature named Nomu with the intent of killing the strongest hero of all time and murdering a bunch of children. And he treats the whole thing and talks like it's a game.
And then when it doesn't go his way, he throws a tantrum, basically. He
scratches his face and loses his mind, and he's like, you guys cheated.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
So he treats it like a game and like a little kid losing a toy. It's like, you're cheating, you did this, why is this happening to me?
Yeah, so you start, when you first see him, the way that he's written, you're supposed to kind of dislike him. But as the story progresses, he sees other villains doing things differently, and he wonders why they're getting more credit and more
recognition.
For example, there's a villain named Stain who comes along later who has a vendetta and a goal, which is...
We won't go into all that because we will save him for another day because he is badass.
Yeah. Just say he wants to rid the world of fake heroes.
Yeah.
And because he had a mantra, people hailed him as kind of not like a hero, but as someone who had the greater good in mind.
Yeah, he was interesting because you know that his motive was evil, but
his motive was good, but the way he went about it was evil.
Yeah, he was trying to do the right thing, just way the wrong way.
Yeah, just essentially people in My Hero Academia get paid to do hero work, and he was saying you shouldn't need to be paid. You shouldn't need incentive. You should just save people because that's what a hero does.
Because that's the right thing to do.
And he became a big staple in the series at that point, and he kept getting all this media coverage. And Shigaraki, who had also just made a little miniature war in the same arc, got nothing. And he's like, "What am I doing wrong? What's different between me and him?" So he's slowly progresses and learns from other villains. And by where we're at now in the series, he's smart, collected, and cool. So it's cool to see a hero that grows along, or a villain that grows alongside the hero. It's something you don't really see very often.
Very rarely.
Yeah, it's different. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
It's probably why that show is doing so well.
Oh, dude, My Hero Academia. So good. But yeah, since we're getting back to where we were going before that, the other type of villain, like I said, that was the world-ending kind of psycho villain, is the kind of villain who has a end goal in mind, like a greater good kind of goal.
Or at least in their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Has their own goals that they think justify what they're doing.
Right.
And he just got through the series, I believe.
What, My Hero?
No. Magi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to bring up some Magi characters as an example of that.
Through the anime. I'm not through with the manga.
No, I won't go there.
Okay.
But like, for example, these kind of characters pop up in a lot of wars in anime and manga. Not even like, action series and whatnot. They can be from any kind of series. But for example, there's like a 3-sided war in the series Magi, and you get like different sides. There's like this guy named Mogamet, who's the king of like the magician world. And then there's this queen named Queen Scheherazade, who has basically got Rome. Scheherazade. Basically magic Rome.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
And then the Co-Empire, who's basically China. But anyway, they have this giant 3-way war. Mogamet is pretty much racist against everyone who's not a magician, but he will do anything in his power to save magician life.
He wants to basically make a world where magicians are on top, still look out for the little people underneath them, but not so much care about them.
Yeah, exactly. And Scheherazade, the Rome lady, she wants to expand the influence of her empire, and kind of it's all she cares about. So she actually started the war, but she's actually kind of a nicer person than Mogamet. So Mogamet was on the defensive, but yeah, they all fight for their own ideals.
And then the Ko just wants to know everything.
Yeah, Ko wants to know everything, and they want to expand their empire, just like China back in
Pretty
the
much.
day. So you get villains like that, which are really complex and different and unique. And some anime don't even have like traditional villains.
Yeah.
But yeah. What about? Is there any other series you can think of that kind of falls along those kind of villains, or
Which kind of villains?
more like the grand scheme kind of villains, like the fighting for their own goals, even though they're not particularly.
Well,
good
one that's not so much like fighting for his own goal, other than that just because he was bored, is One Punch Man.
Oh yeah, well he's not a villain though.
No, not him. The final villain that he did fight.
Oh yeah, Boros. That was an interesting one.
Because he literally was just traveling around universes, destroying them, just to find somebody strong enough to fight him, because he was bored.
Which is ironic considering the main character's pretty much got the same goal. He's too OP, one shot.
But he's a hero, so he's not intentionally looking to cause problems. He'll go and fight, and it's just like he's just mad because it's like, boom, oh, I win, yay.
He's too lazy to actually get up and do anything.
Yeah, he's a hero for fun.
Good job. Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like for that category. I guess going to specific characters at this point. I already went through Shigaraki, so don't gotta talk about him. So these are villains I like. There's also like one of the most renowned villains in all of anime and manga, basically, and that's Griffith. I'm sorry, you don't know too much about him, but he's the main villain of Berserk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
Live action of that?
No.
I think it's Berserk. Could be wrong.
Really?
I think it's Bleach.
You're probably right.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Oh man, we were apologizing before. I'm sorry, everyone, that he just compared Bleach to Berserk. He didn't know what he was doing.
He did not know what he'd done.
Internet will be in a storm.
My bad.
No, Bleach isn't that bad or anything. It's just kind of like Berserk put on like this pedestal of like masterpiece to him, and then Bleach is. Sometimes people think it's good, other times people think it's bad. So it's all opinions at the end of the day. So.
That guy, my bad.
No, feel free to chime in on things.
Chime in, man.
Yeah.
It's fun. We'll get more comments this way. All for the.
That check guy needs to be quiet.
So yeah, Griffith is he's a selfish egomaniac who will do anything to achieve his goals, and
Well, that's standard villain.
no, let me go more. Let me go in more. He's the ultimate. He's the traitor amongst traitors in anime and manga. So if you don't want Berserk spoilers, maybe skip forward like 4 or 5 minutes, because I'm gonna be talking for a minute. I'm probably not 4 or 5 minutes. That's an exaggeration. 3 minutes. So.
Do the X thing, remember?
Oh yeah, the X. Spoilers start here. If you don't want to be spoiled, wait until I make this hand symbol again. So just fast forward a little bit until you see that. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'm glad I came up with it. Good
Yeah,
job.
keep it
Thanks
up.
for remembering me. Reminding me. I can't talk. So yeah, okay. So Griffith was the leader of this band of mercenaries called the Band of the Hawk, who the main character Guts joined. Griffith's whole goal was to obtain his kingdom, which is pretty, I guess, what would you say? What's the word for it? Pretty standard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, I didn't
pretty
know what you
standard,
were
but
trying to say, okay.
he'll do anything to get it. For example, like it was pretty realistic series. So they were low on provisions, low on money and stuff. Griffith literally went around to noble rich men and slept with them in order to give them to lend out money to the Band of the Hawk. Griffith's the dude. Griffith sold himself to big fat old guys to get money for his crew because that's how much he cares about getting his dang kingdom.
Dang.
Anyway, it comes late. One way he decides to try to get the big mistake. The way he tries to get his kingdom is he sleeps with the princess to try to get political influence. Her dad finds out. Turns out her dad has incestuous feelings for her, and he finds out that Griffith slept with her. So what does he do? He traps Griffith underground, tries to rape the girl in the process, but whatever.
Skip over that.
Traps him underground and subjects him to torture for months. So Griffith's whipped, beaten, starved, and he's emaciated by the end of it. So he has absolutely no choice or no chance of achieving his goal of getting his own kingdom at this point. Griffith, or Guts and the main characters all go on a raid to try to free him. And, well, turns out there's demons in this story, and evil gods and pacts. Griffith gets his hand on this thing called a Bahalit, which summons basically all the devils of the world after they've rescued him. And he can't talk. I forgot. When he was tortured, they ripped his tongue out.
Oh, crap.
So he summons all the devils in the world, essentially, and they give him a verbatim, like, if you want your kingdom, you have to sacrifice everything. Like, will you do it? And, like, he's able to talk all of a sudden because he's in this, like, different dimension, and he says yes. And pretty much all the main characters at that point proceed to be sacrificed to the devil, and all the main characters start getting killed, and the main character, Guts, his girlfriend, who was in love with Griffith too, gets captured, and Griffith transforms into like a demon god and rapes her in front of Guts while Guts tries to rip his own arm off because he's pinned down to stop the whole ordeal. And now Griffith is a emotionless death demon god, and he's got his kingdom now.
Well, okay then.
So he's renowned as being the asshole.
The asshole of assholes.
Of all assholes in all of anime and manga. He's actually a great character. They go into his psyche and why he's so fucking determined and everything like that, and it's pretty awesome. So that's a villain.
Yeah, I would say so.
You thought it started generic. No, it doesn't go that way.
I haven't read or watched anything about it, but I knew that Berserk was kind of messed up.
Now you know why.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, get into it, man. It's so good. All right, and here we go.
Spoilers done!
Spoilers are done. Before I go into more of mine, what's one of your favorite villains in anime and manga? Got any? Got any big favorites?
I don't really know. It's just like it's kind of hard to think about things. One I kind of like because it's a little unclear on is Evangelion.
Oh, okay. So just the angels themselves?
The angels, but then also, what the crap is his name? Shinji's dad.
Oh, man. Gendo Ikari.
Yeah, there we go. It's like, I know I'm messing up on the things. I know the characters, some of their names are a little hard to remember. Mm-hmm. But his goals are really kind of a little very unclear. Like, yeah, okay, he seems like that he wants to like bring his wife back or something, but when it seems like that he finally has the chance to do it, it's not so much what he wanted. It's just he wanted something else, and then he wants something else other than that. It's like, what are you planning? And then the angels, it's like, what in the world are they planning? They're just there to try to destroy the world. So it's like, okay, or is that your goal? Or are you trying to do something else? What is going on here? Mm-hmm. And then there's also the Avas themselves. Yeah. Which are, we never really did get.
Yeah, they don't really have a will. Well, they do, but they're just crazy.
Yeah, other than we don't even know if they're full-on angels or what the crap they are.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty good villain. I mean, he's pretty hated amongst the anime community, too, just for how badly he treats Shinji.
Yeah.
Just get in the damn robot, Shinji. Which everyone proceeds to listen to him. And not to mention, he has that weird relationship with Rei.
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
Yeah, considering that Rei is, like, I guess a clone of his wife, so.
She's like 15.
Yeah.
And he.
A little weird.
Seems like he's got some romantic inclinations towards her. So that's
but since it's still, like, the clone of his wife, people can kind of let that go, I guess, to an extent.
To an extent. It's okay because it's a clone of his wife.
It's just, wouldn't be so bad if the clone was actually like the same age as his wife, but no, she's literally 15 years old. So it is a little weird, but in a way, he doesn't see it weird because it's a clone of his wife.
Yeah, makes sense. Whoa. We got creaking. We
Oh,
upset something.
It's just a spirit. Oh well.
If
you see us get lifted off the screen or off the panel or whatever, just pay us no mind. We'll just keep on going.
They're obviously not a fan of Gendo Ikari.
Nah, apparently not. We are sorry.
Shouldn't have mentioned that guy. Okay. So here's a character we actually got into a little bit of a debate about earlier, and it's Tucker from Full Metal Alchemist. I say he's a villain. Andrew says he's not a villain, and I'll let him explain it, but you guys are already probably ranting and raving, saying, what do you mean he's not a villain? So I'll let Andrew try to explain that.
I'm saying that he would be considered evilistic, not so much...
Evilistic?
Yeah, evilistic.
We're putting that down as a definition.
Like, what he does...
Let's go through what he did first, if they don't know.
Well, he basically turned his wife and his daughter into chimeras.
In a talking chimera.
A talking chimera.
In order to basically
get funding.
And not get fired from his job.
Yes.
And he did to his wife in the past.
Yes.
He's a sociopathic family murderer. But he's not a villain.
Yeah.
Silence.
But like, yeah, what he did was completely wrong. And I'm not defending the guy because I personally do think that he's an asshole.
Yes.
And that he completely deserved what he got.
Yeah.
But as far as a villain standpoint, I wouldn't so much give him that. It's like, I will say that what he did makes him completely evil, yes, but not so much a villain because...
You don't think it's wide scale enough to be considered a villain because it's a isolated incident?
Yeah.
He's not affecting the overall public, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like, what he did was definitely evil from probably everybody's perspective, but it's not so much like he was doing villainistic, like, on a huge grand scale.
True.
He was, I guess, yes, like he was being villainistic on trying to...
You keep using that word.
I know, I don't know why I do, but whatever. To get, like, funding so he wouldn't lose his job and all that stuff, but since when does a villain actually...
Let me ask you this.
What?
And I don't have an exact story as an example, but let me just ask you this scenario.
Okay.
Okay. What if there's a series and there's only 3 or 4 characters, or maybe even 2, and one of the characters is basically, I guess I should say, the personal villain for the main character. Like, he only does horrible things to the main character, but there's only 4 or 5 characters in the show, and he's the central antagonist, and everything bad stems from his actions. Is he a villain?
Depends on what he's doing.
Let's just say personally villainous towards the main character. Like, I don't know, kill the main character's family or something. I don't know.
Probably that, yes.
That's pretty small scale, though, and it's only for one person.
But if it's like for like a series, like a whole series of him being that, yes, he'd be the overall villain. This Tucker guy was only for, what, 3-4 episodes?
Yeah, in the original.
In the original, yeah, okay. So it's like, not saying that he's still not evil, but I just kind of going a little bit more into the thing of like a whole series wide, that if he was like the villain for like the whole series, then yeah.
I say he's a small scale villain, but a villain's a villain.
All right, fine, we'll give you that.
that's where I'm coming from here.
Okay.
Oh, I just kicked the table.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to.
But yeah, I'll give you that, but I just personally don't think of him as like what we've been mentioning in all the others, like as these.
I'll give you that. He's not
like,
a large scale.
Yeah, not a large scale. Like I'll give you
on the
small
level of
scale.
like a homunculus, because they're not even really full blown. They're just like they show up and do a fight here and there. Like he's more of a villain than Sloth.
Sloth, I wouldn't really say you could use him. He's basically a mindless dumbass. He just does whatever he's told.
That's true. Oh, we're kind of rambling at this point, so...
Yeah, we kind of are. Yeah, we got to get back on topic.
We're on topic, but...
This is what we do whenever we talk just...
I think we're on this camera.
Are we on that camera?
We're on this camera.
I was right, so shut up. Why are you questioning me?
I keep looking away from the camera. I didn't see the pointing.
Jeez.
Okay, so one more villain that I personally like, and this is going to sound funny, because I haven't seen the series, but I know enough about him to say that he sounds pretty dang awesome.
Oh, boy.
And you haven't seen the series either, obviously, since... Oh, okay, that's not obvious. You've seen a lot of anime, I haven't, but... Johann Liebert. I believe I've mentioned him to you, Andrew, at some point. There's this anime I really want to watch.
What's it called?
Monster. I've told you about it. I'm pretty sure.
Nope.
It's an older series, but it's renowned as having pretty much the best villain in all of anime, and I can't believe I haven't seen it at this point, and we're doing this podcast without me having seen him. But
Jeez.
I know. But Johann Liebert is a totally normal dude. He's, I think, of German descent. And he got a brain injury as a child. There's no powers or anything. This is like a psychological horror series.
Oh, okay.
He got into a car accident, or he got into an accident of some sort as a child. Got a injury with his brain, and essentially he just went mental, and he wants to be the last person alive on Earth, but he has no powers.
Okay.
He doesn't really. Yeah, he's just psycho. He just wants to be the last person alive on Earth. That is literally it.
Mental brain damage.
Yeah, that's what caused it. I don't even think. I think he does shoot people and stuff occasionally, but what makes him an interesting villain, from what I've heard, is that he doesn't actually do anything besides talk to people.
So he just monologues.
No, he psychologically gets in people's heads and messes with them to the extent to just have them murder their friends and family. Have them.
Oh,
he has.
okay.
I believe he had an entire hospital. He spread rumors and just he talked in such a convincing manner that he basically got one of the nurses to kill a patient, and another nurse witnessed it. She freaked out, shot that nurse, and it pretty much caused a chain reaction, and everyone in the hospital died.
Wow, okay.
So he's
interesting.
Yeah, he's just this smooth ass talker, evil as sin guy. And I think it's awesome that you can have a character who doesn't have any powers, doesn't have a gun, that he uses too much anyway, and just talks the world dead. I hear some people can't even finish the show because of what some of the things he does is just so sickening.
Wow.
But I'm like, I need to watch this, man.
That sounds interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and Monster it's called Monster because he's the titular monster. It's called Monster because of him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it looks great, and I will watch it at some point.
It does sound good.
Yeah. Okay, some bad villains. Andrew's favorite show, SAO. Not really Andrew's favorite show, but what's the dude's name? The second villain.
Second half of the first season villain.
Nobuyuki.
I don't know his name.
Andrew likes the show and he doesn't even know his name.
That
tells you he's a terrible villain.
Well, yeah. Okay. not so much like the villain himself was terrible. Just the way that he went around being the villain was really, really dumb.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
Defend him, Andrew. Essentially, one note, doesn't really, he's so terrible.
He never really had a goal in mind. He just
kidnaps the main character's girlfriend
and 300 other people, but
keeps them locked up in this place and just walks up to her and tries to lick her. It's messed up.
He
man.
did kind of have some kind of goal in a way of using the other 300 people to.
He's so bad, dude. He's
so
poorly written, man.
Yeah, he could have been a lot better, but they just.
And the first villain wasn't that great either, but he was just an atrocity. He pretty much killed my interest in the whole series.
Yeah.
But he was bad. I know I don't have very many concrete reasons right here. This is a podcast, but my feelings were offended by how terrible he was.
Who cares?
Terrible in a bad writing way, not terrible in a villain way. Because if he was terrible in a villain way...
Okay, writing ways, I'll give you.
Yeah, if he was terrible in a villain way, then he'd be a good villain.
Yeah.
He was just terribly written. Everything he did made no sense. He had no reason for it to make no sense. He was just a psycho perv who came out of nowhere and ruined the show.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And it was bad.
For anybody that likes Sword Art more than probably life itself, we apologize.
You should know that was the lowest point in your series.
I will say I am currently watching the show. I like it, but it's not one of my favorite all-time shows.
Yeah.
I can
there are a lot of Sword Art fans.
Yeah, I can like shows and just not be overly impressed with them, or I can not like them and like certain characters from them.
Yeah, that's
There's things like that. Sword Art is a show that I like, but it's not one of my diehard favorite shows.
Yeah. Okay, next villain you can talk about with me, and we already brought her up. What? Kaguya.
Kaguya from Naruto.
Kaguya from Naruto. All right, so we mentioned it before, but to go into a little more detail, spoiler alert for the 2 people who haven't seen Naruto.
Honestly, if there's anybody that hasn't seen at least 1 or 2 episodes of it, then it's what the hell?
Yeah. Kaguya was introduced late game. She was a goddess. She was pretty much a world-building character. Like, hey, do you want to know where chakra, the energy of the world, came from? There was this princess. She ate this fruit. It gave her powers. She passed it along to generations.
To her sons, at least.
To her sons. And they, you know, the generations went down. One son became like the Uchiha family. The other son was the Hashirama's family, Senju.
Yeah.
So she was just the start of, like, the timeline, kind of.
Kind of like the start of, like, a family tree.
Start of the ninjas, even though it wasn't called ninjutsu back then. It was just magic, pretty much.
Yeah, she was the top. Her sons were the second, and then they had some... Yeah. Actually, one of her sons did not really have any kids, did he?
I thought... Yeah, he was a Hyuga, I think.
Yeah.
He became the Hyuga clan.
Yeah, so he branched off in a separate way, while...
So she had two sons, but one was the Uchiha, one was the Senju, and then there was a third son? I guess there was a third son.
No, she didn't have 3 kids. She only had 2. She had the Sage of Six Paths and his brother.
Indra.
Yes.
Her son, because the Byakugan was branched off from the...
Yeah.
We are getting off.
One of her sons had 2 sons that branched off into the Uchiha and the Senju.
Yeah.
Her other son broke off into the Byakugan.
But you see, we're going to world building here, and that was the point of her character. Just to flesh out the world and tell you where everything came from, even though it didn't need to be explained. But it was interesting.
Yes.
But yeah, her existence wasn't a problem at that point.
Yeah, it was like the backstory of where all chakra came from, which was like, okay, that's good to know, to just know where it comes from.
Yeah, and then Madara fucking Uchiha, because you can't say his name without adding fucking between his first and last name, because he's Madara fucking Uchiha. The villain who's been brought up through the whole series, who manipulated everything,
showed up in the war and just kicked so much ass,
dropped meteors, legitimately.
Yeah,
the legend, Madara Uchiha, fucking Uchiha, was, you know, he was too powerful.
Yeah, and then he got like...
So the writer's solution for having this overpowered character...
Bring an even more overpowered character.
...is to bring out Kaguya, who is even stronger than him, to usurp his throne and become the real final villain. And the reason why they could beat Kaguya but couldn't beat Madara was because she didn't have battle experience. She was like a goddess.
She just had power.
She was dumb. But Madara was too smart. So the writer of the series couldn't figure out how to beat his own final villain. So he had to pull a new villain into existence in order to...
give the characters a chance to win.
Yeah.
Because, Madara was basically perfect. He was very smart and very good with battle technique. Mm-hmm. Kaguya was just OP powerful, very little battle experience.
And she had weaknesses they could exploit. For example, since she was like a princess, she was sheltered, supposedly. So Naruto, if you know anything about him, has his sexy jutsu where he makes clones and turns them into women. He jumped towards her, reversed it, made a bunch of half-naked dudes, and she got surprised and he managed to land a punch.
Which never would have worked on Madara.
Never would have. Oh, no, probably not.
Even if he did the normal sexy jutsu.
I don't think Madara has a sex drive.
I don't think he does. He just has a I just want to rule the world type of drive.
Yeah, but he was a good villain. He was a good end the world kind of villain. He even had a reason for it, but he was too psycho.
So they had to get rid of him.
Yeah, and that was a big blow to the fan base. And the other reason Kaguya was probably introduced is because the spinoff of Naruto's son has now started, and her Otsutsuki clan, Otsutsuki clan, are now like the villains of like the new Boruto series, kind of. So they pretty much introduced her A, to do some world building fleshing out, and B, to have relevant villains for the next Naruto series.
So I guess in
in
way
doing they ruined the ending of Naruto from a battle perspective.
Yeah, they brought her in for the plot of the next story, not so much helping with Naruto, but for helping with Boruto to have villainous.
Which kind of sucks that he had to throw his own story under the bus for someone else to write about his son.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah, but whatever. I'm still gonna watch Boruto probably because I'm a fanboy.
I am too.
But yeah, and my final villain that I'm not particularly fond of, and Andrew might disagree with me here, so this will be fun.
Oh, okay.
Nagisa's mom from Assassination Classroom. I don't even know her name. It's Nagisa's mom. Nagisa's mom.
What is her name?
Going on.
I don't know her name either.
Okay, so there's the main character of Assassination Classroom is named Nagisa. And the first thing you will notice when looking at Nagisa is that he's girly as hell.
He's a trap.
He's a trap. That means he got a pee-pee. But he looks like a girl.
Yeah, that's basically what a trap is. It's where like a main character or just somebody in a group looks like the opposite gender of what they actually are.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it's a guy that looks like a girl.
And often it's unexplained and for no reason other than to just confuse and troll your audience. But this isn't one of those cases.
Right.
Nagisa has a story reason why he dresses that way and whatnot, and that's his mom.
Yeah. She wanted a girl, and she got a son, so she tried to pawn off everything that she could not do.
Yeah, she wanted to live her life again through her child, wound up being a boy, so she wound up dressing like a girl.
Well, tried to. He never actually dressed like a girl, but she made him keep his hair long, and she bought a bunch of dresses. He just refused to wear them.
Yeah, and you say, what's wrong with this? This is like realistic. There's probably real parents who are like that, which is true.
She just if he even so much as stands up to her, she flips out enough to where almost borderlining on child abuse.
Well, that makes her a good villain. The problem is that I think she got over it too quickly.
Yeah, she kind of did.
She had one talk with, was it Kuro-sensei?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had one talk with the school teacher, and then all of her years and years and years of child rearing, child abuse, living her life through her son was thrown out the window, and she became a good mom. And that was just too much of a mood whiplash in her character for me to appreciate.
Well, I wouldn't say so much that she had a complete change of all that stuff. She just stopped caring.
Which is still an exaggeration, really.
She still seemed like she had a little bit of like the stuff that she wanted to try to run through him, but she just didn't force it as much. Mm-hmm. Like she still wouldn't let him cut his hair until after he graduated, which he could accept that, and just a few other little things like that he had no issues with accepting, but some of them he probably put his foot down on.
Yeah. So I think that's my list of villains I don't really like too much. There's more, but I don't want to go on all day. How about you, Andrew? Any anime or manga villains that you just don't like for some reason or another?
Oh, so we're doing that we don't like or that we do like?
I thought I asked you which ones you do like and you didn't have an answer.
Well, I thought we were just covering all bases.
No, what about dislike? Are there any anime or manga villains that just rubbed you the wrong way and made you wish they weren't around?
Well,
from a writing perspective, not from the fact that they're just an asshole, because that's what
I wouldn't say that so much they're like an unforeseen villain. It's just like kind of a generic type thing. Would be an anime called Outbreak Company.
I haven't seen it.
Very good. It makes a lot of references to other animes like Evangelion, Attack on Titan, all kinds of stuff like that, which is great and funny. But then there's through the whole thing, it's there's not really very many villains. There's a terrorist group that shows up, then they're taken care of in 1 or 2 episodes. It's okay, well, you're gone. Mm-hmm. But then at the very end, you find out that it's surprise, surprise, it's the government.
Of course. And
they don't they try to do just typical things that it's they're in this other world type thing, which is another kind of cliche. But he's basically.
Thank God we're not ragging on cliche.
He's the main guy. He's just okay, I'm staying here to help run this school and get everybody continuing what the goal was. And they're so you're saying that you're not going to listen to us? No, I'm not listening to you guys anymore. It's oh, okay then. And it's okay, well, that seemed like that ended kind of fast. And then he's sleeping one night, and then just the military sends in spies and soldiers and stuff to basically just murder him in his sleep. Which doesn't work because they planned for it. Because they're not stupid and they know that the government does not take rejection well at all.
Yeah, of course.
But then they try to do it again. They basically chloroform him, throw him in his little school place, and try to burn it down.
Do you think they're just too tenacious or too annoying?
Honestly, for me, it's just too generic.
Oh, okay.
Too generic, typical military.
Which is kind of the villains of Assassination Classroom, was just the military.
Yeah, but they went about that very differently, which made it okay.
Yeah, when you bring up the military as a villain, then you need to at least implement military strategies and make it seem like they're an organized, dangerous force.
Right.
If you just have 5 trained guys go and try to take out one teenager who's asleep and they fail, then you make them look dumb and they don't come across as good villains.
Pretty much.
So
yeah, they have that kind of stuff.
I see. So not a singular villain, just a villain force that you didn't like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was
there a military leader?
Yeah, I guess he kind of was. He was the Prime Minister of Japan, so.
Wow.
Yeah, so way high up there, which even still made it even worse. That they couldn't come up with a way to get rid of a 15-year-old kid. which is sad as hell.
Yeah, I know this is kind of backpedaling just a little bit, but what's the villain's name from Assassination Classroom who was in the military? The crazy guy who got
From part 2?
the teacher substitute.
Oh,
He was an interesting villain.
he was weird. Takaoka.
Yeah, Takaoka. He was like a psycho military leader guy. He was fun.
He was basically because he kind of had like a PTSD type thing.
Mm-hmm. He's just the strong win and the weak die character.
Yeah, and just the whole kind of demonstrating alpha dog status type thing. It's like, okay, be nice, and then beat the crap out of you, then be nice, and just all kind of stuff like that.
Do you got anything you brought with you? Because I think we've just about covered most of what we wanted to talk about when it comes to villains and whatnot. I know we kind of rambled a lot in this one, but we're just trying to go through the general differences and then state some of the ones we liked and disliked. It was kind of
I got
more
one in
casual.
particular that I actually really like as a villain that I would like to bring up.
You got a new one.
Well, it's not a new one. It's one that you've seen, so you can back me up on this. You know Gasai from Future Diary.
She's, I guess you could call her a villain.
A villain yandere.
Yanderes are psycho peoples.
That are obsessed with people.
That are female.
Yeah, that are usually obsessed with either like their boyfriend or somebody that they want to be their boyfriend.
And she had a good reason, though, because she was timeline stuff.
Yeah, very much timeline things, but it doesn't seem like that would be that great thing for a villain, but they made her, obviously they made her psychotic and everything, so she kind of led off to being a villain, but she almost, it seemed like that throughout the series, like the villain was going to be Deus Ex Machina, the
Giant god dude.
Yeah, because it seemed like he was just plotting everybody against each other, but it turns out he was actually not being so much evil, just he's just kind of along for the ride. And then turned out
he was trying to get off his power to everyone. So.
Yeah, and then turned out like later on in the series to be completely just batshit crazy.
But they had a happy ending. Let's just say that surprisingly.
Yeah, ironically enough.
Surprisingly, the series had a happy ending despite 90% of it being dark as hell.
90%, I'll give it more like 99% of it being crazy.
I don't think you'd be 99% with that mascot episode.
Yeah.
That episode is hilarious.
Okay, we'll give it 95.
And also all the after credit scenes of the little girl and her silly antics with everyone.
Yeah, okay.
So, 90, 95.
Yeah, we'll
It
give
had
it
more
something
comedy than you would remember, probably.
Yeah, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's all about killing people, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of weird that there'd be humor. But
You need some humor with your killing people.
yeah, obviously, yeah. And I did bring a couple of recommendation things. One we already covered.
I didn't bring any today.
One we already did cover is Code Geass.
Hell to the yes. One of the best anime of all time.
Yes, which apparently is getting its season 3 when?
Ooh. Why you gotta put me on the spot like that?
Well, I thought you wouldn't know because you were way more into it than I was.
From
I
what
only
I
recently got into
understand,
it.
late this year,
Late this year,
I think.
which is good because it definitely needs it. Well, I mean, it ended good enough, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do with season 3.
It will be interesting, and it's going to divide the hell out of people. Either they're going to love it or they're going to hate the shit out of it because the way it ended was
Beautiful.
wonderful. So, if they bring it back and the ending for season 3 isn't as good as the ending that season 2 had, people are going to be like, this shouldn't have ever happened.
Right.
So
It's going to kind of be a hit or miss thing.
yeah, it's going to be great or it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But the first 2 seasons, there are people who think that R1, the first season, is vastly superior to R2.
Which is what this is.
I don't know why they think that. I mean, it's...
I can see like some things about it, but I don't really have an opinion on which one I think is better. Like I just go by overall as a whole.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so that's what I go. So I can't really say like I like season 1 more than season 2 or vice versa. I just like the whole series as a whole.
What about Charles, man? He was a big villain of Code Geass.
Lucia's dad?
Yeah, he was an okay villain.
Yeah, he was okay villain, but he really was not in it very much.
Nah, but he had impact while he was there.
He did have impact when he was not in it very much. So yeah.
It was fun to see him get taken down.
Yeah. And then the next recommendation I got is Shimonetta, isn't it?
Shimonetta?
Shimonetta, yeah.
Never seen it.
It's let's just say that
there is underwear on that girl's head.
Yeah, it's very weird, but basically the villain of this is just funny because it's where is she? It's the white-haired girl's mom, who's the main villain.
I had no idea.
She basically the point of this show is just so weird
Silly.
to the fact that they want to rid the world of anything sexualization wise.
It's called Shimonetta, A World Without Dirty Jokes.
Right. So they want no dirty jokes, no like porn magazines, nothing. They don't even teach you like what people are supposed to do like for trying to like date. They basically don't even want the world to reproduce anymore. They just want whatever is in the world, that is it.
I need to watch this show. It sounds ridiculous.
It is
She have underwear on her head.
Because she's the rebellious person.
She is a terrorist. And what she does is she just goes around
being perverted.
But yeah, basically doing what you would expect like a normal reality or normal modern day people to be.
Probably amped up ×5 just because she's being repressed.
Yeah, and the fact that you see she's wearing just like that cloth, that is literally all she is wearing. And the underwear on
I gotta
her head,
watch this show. It's ridiculous.
Oh my god, it is so funny. So like for part of like her terrorist thing, you think that like okay, they got like guns and shooting people. No, she'll run around and she will just throw pictures of people in like just in underwear.
Positions.
Well, that underwear, even sometimes nudie things. She'll just throw all that around.
Do people just freak the hell out and like try to like decontaminate it?
They try to just get it and destroy it.
That's hilarious.
And the people can't exactly go after and try to grab her and like take her into custody
because that's sexual harassment.
Exactly. And she's also got a thing on there to where
SJWs would love
she
this
has
world.
She has a
if you're an SJW who's watching this, I hope you're offended.
She has she's rigged something with her outfit to where if they like grab her, it will become undone, which leads back into the sexual harassment thing. Is like she'll be completely exposed, which will contradict everything that they want done. But it's so funny because her mom is so desperate to rid the world of all this, and when it doesn't go right, she just freaks out.
That is wonderful.
She's as far as villain goes, she's very low key and very weird, but
the whole show is low key and weird, so she's fitting.
Oh, the whole show is hilarious. Like I die laughing watching it. It's just so random, so funny, and just there's not much more to say other than there's no point.
It's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, it has a good plot and it actually has a good story despite being what it is, but
it's got a good plot for what it is.
Yeah, that. But overall, it is just so weird, but that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
Those are my recommendations.
You've convinced me. I'll watch it. Good job, Andrew. You convinced at least one person here to watch this show. What about you, random third person?
Yeah, I'll watch it.
Oh, so you convinced two people.
She has underwear on her head.
I think it's legendary sounding.
It is.
Yeah. So, any other closing thoughts on this podcast, Andrew?
No, I can't think of any. All
right. Well, we may not be in the nut house, but as always, you should keep it squirrely. Andrew's not going to say it, but it's okay. I guess not being in the nut house ruined it for you.
It did. It's like I don't feel as nutty not being in the nut house.
I guess, or a squirrely.
Either way.
I hope this doesn't get edited out because it's kind of funny, but keep it squirrely, Andrew.
Yeah.
The end. Cut.